Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Jay is off tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade. More details coming to light surrounding alleged crimes inside the Montana Women's Prison. After initially flunking its latest audit, the Montana Women's Prison is now compliant with federal standards related to prison rape. Q2's Asia Gore first broke this story last month and today dug through the latest document to explain which standards the prison had to correct. Asia.
Jeanelle, the auditor's initial report in June found 20 standards in need of corrective action. That's nearly half the Montana Women's Prison's sexual assault policies in need of work. MWP policy requires prompt, thorough, and objective internal investigations into allegations of sexual misconduct. But the auditor said those investigations were neither thorough nor objective. The audit found staff accused of misconduct often resigned without any criminal investigation. In fact, in the year leading up to the June audit, the facility had 4 inmate reports of sexual abuse. None resulted in charges, though the audit team reviewed 2 cases they believe had criminal elements. The auditor said staff, including the person responsible for handling these cases, were poorly trained. And one inmate told the auditor she was put in segregation for 67 days after she reported she felt afraid in some way related to prison rape, which is against prison policy. Now, ultimately, the auditor noted the need for changes to, quote, cultural-based concerns, which she indicated are possible under the new warden. The auditor's follow-up report in October found the prison did meet all standards. Jeanelle?
All right. Thanks so much, Asia. Well, for the first time in a decade, Montana makes it 30 days without a fatal crash. Just 2 years ago, a National Highway Safety Report found Montana in the top 5 for rate of deadly crashes. But new numbers released today are much more positive. The last fatal crash in Montana, February 26th. It hasn't been since at least 2008 that we've seen roads this safe. The Montana Department of Transportation report shows the average number of fatal crashes between 2012 and 2015 was down 8% from the previous 5-year period. During that same time, the number of serious injuries and crashes declined 14%. The weekly Montana Highway Patrol report shows fatal crashes involving alcohol and/or drugs also down from 2016. As of today, there have been 19 fatalities on Montana roads so far this year. That's compared to 29 the same time last year. Montana Department of Transportation officials say these figures show Vision Zero is having an impact. That initiative, started in 2014, aims to bring Montana's deadly and high injury crashes to zero. Well, all across the country, cell phone use has more people driving distracted. Danielle Nottingham takes a look at those numbers.
Robbie Nothnagel has spent months trying to rehabilitate her body. Last year, she was walking across the street when a teenager who was texting and driving hit her. The accident broke Robbie's pelvis and tibia.
I started in a wheelchair, went to a walker, but now I'm walking.
A new report from AAA finds more than 90% of people believe distracted driving is dangerous.
Texting and driving.
Roderick Parks agrees.
When I see it, I'm kind of annoyed by it.
But most people don't always follow their own advice. In the survey, 49% admitted to recently talking on the phone while driving. 35% said they sent a text or email when they were behind the wheel.
Even myself, I can't even say that I don't ever do it. But, you know, occasionally, yeah, I might just look at my phone or something.
Tamara Johnson from AAA says a smartphone isn't the only distraction. This man loses control after putting something in his visor. Using your infotainment system takes your eyes off the road, and talking to another passenger can also be dangerous.
Drivers really have to be aware anything that takes their hands off the wheel, eyes and attention off the road is a distraction, and they need to make sure that they cut that out.
Robbie has joined an effort to get people to put these magnets on their cars.
I felt compelled as a survivor to do something to create awareness.
The simple message, stash it. Danielle Nottingham, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Now, the number of drivers who admit talking on a cell phone regularly or fairly often while driving is up 46% since 2013. President Trump made a stop in Ohio today, speaking to a crowd of union builders. Although his focus touched on a number of topics, the event was originally billed to target an infrastructure plan. The current plan is asking for $1.5 trillion. The president touted the plan and hopes to garner more support from Congress, which is lukewarm on the idea. The president is urging for progress, saying America has fallen from its power state it once was in its earliest days of infrastructure.
It's a plan for building a stronger America. For most of our history, American infrastructure was the envy of the world. True. Go back 30, 40, 50 years, they would look at us like, now we are like, in many cases, a third world country. It's an embarrassment. And we're the ones that had the imagination and the drive to get it done.
U.S. Senator Jon Tester was in Helena today and stopped in to talk with MTN News. He covered a wide variety of issues as well before Congress, including infrastructure. Now, Tester, a Democrat up for re-election this year, explained why he voted for the big omnibus budget bill last week. He says it had many good things for the country and Montana, including language to help the Forest Service better manage timber and other national forest resources. On this week's firing of Veterans Administration Secretary David Shulkin, Tester said he found it somewhat troubling. But he said it's time to look forward and keep working on improving health care for military veterans. Tester also said Congress can come together on an infrastructure bill if it wants to, and that the bill should focus on more than just highways.
Infrastructure is bigger than just roads and bridges. The work that has to be done on broadband is really important. On cell service is really important. To make sure that rural America gets those dollars, really important. So we've got a lot of work to do when it comes to infrastructure. There are a lot of needs out there. We have neglected it for far too long. We're living on the infrastructure that my parents' generation built. It's time we step up.
Now, Tester also said it would be difficult finding federal money to fund infrastructure. More details tonight about exactly what happened during a shooting incident in Missoula this month involving a student and a school resource officer. A search warrant filed in Missoula District Court states a picture of the student with a handgun and a large amount of cash started the chain of events. Upon investigation, the student's backpack was searched, and while walking to check out the student's car, he ran, making it to his vehicle before officials could catch him. As the student drove off, the school resource officer says he fired his weapon several times to prevent the student from running him over. Now, Missoula police say they recovered a handgun along the route of the chase and a bag of white powder in the vehicle. Well, even though you may be finding fallen branches and leaves you haven't seen for months, don't count on burning them tomorrow. Due to an expected high wind warning, Disaster and Emergency Services has issued an open burn ban for all of Yellowstone County. It starts just after midnight and ends at 12:05 a.m. on Saturday. Now, if you do start a fire and it gets out of control, you'll be responsible for all firefighting and damage costs. Well, on to the weather scene, Bob. The snow was basically just a dusting here in Billings today, but a different story elsewhere.
Yeah, up along the High Line, we have the threat board really starting to fill up because we have a big system moving in tomorrow. But take a look at this. There you see all across the High Line, it's pretty busy out there. We'll start out in the west, 6 to 9 inches of snow on the front range of the Rockies. Eastern slopes of the Divide, winds gusting to 60 miles per hour. Got a high wind watch there. We also have some snow melt causing some flooding from Havre all the way down towards Petroleum County. Winter weather advisory up around Glasgow, 2 to 4 inches of snow. Up in Sheridan County, maybe 5 to 6 inches of snow there, and an ice jam over there by just north of Sydney right now. And outside of that, you can see the problem. Here comes that next system moving in, probably sometime tomorrow evening, about maybe 6 o'clock or so. Bam, here it comes. That's a big Alberta Clipper. It's going to bring rain and snow and a whole lot of wind on Saturday. We'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes.